In a single instant, classrooms and playgrounds vanished. Parents searching for their children later found only charred lunchboxes, melted trinkets, or small bones in the ashes. For the children who did survive, the horror was beyond imagination. They wandered the streets calling for their mothers, their cries echoing through the smoke and fire. The rivers of Hiroshima. With the city ablaze, thousands ran toward the rivers. The Oda River and its branches became the last hope for survival. Burned, broken people stumbled to the water's edge, plunging in to cool their bodies, or simply to escape the flames. But the rivers quickly filled with corpses. Survivors drank from the polluted water out of desperation, even as they collapsed from exhaustion. The rivers of Hiroshima became rivers of the dead. The silence after the fire. When night finally fell, the city was a wasteland. The fires burned for hours, consuming what little remained. Survivors huddled in fields and along the riverbanks. Some cried out for loved ones. Others sat in silence, too traumatized to speak. Hiroshima had once been a thriving city of 350,000 people. By the end of that day, tens of thousands were already dead, and many more would die in the days to come. The days after, shadows of radiation. The bomb did not stop killing when the fires burned out. In the days after Hiroshima, a new, invisible enemy began its slow and merciless attack. The City of Ashes. When dawn broke on August 7th, Hiroshima was unrecognizable. Where streets once bustled with merchants and families, there was only rubble and ash. Landmarks were gone, reduced to twisted steel and fragments of stone. The air carried a strange smell, a mix of burned flesh, wood, and something metallic. Survivors searched desperately for loved ones, digging through ruins with their bare hands. The cries of the injured echoed across the wasteland. The hidden death. Many who had seemed to survive the blast now fell ill. At first, they thought it was exhaustion or burns. But then came the symptoms. Bleeding gums, hair falling out in clumps, high fevers, purple blotches on the skin. This was radiation sickness, a killer that no one could see, hear, or touch. Doctors in Hiroshima had never witnessed anything like it. Patients who appeared stable one moment suddenly collapsed and died the next. The struggle of the healers. Hospitals had been destroyed, and most doctors and nurses were killed or injured. The few who remained worked tirelessly with almost nothing. No medicine, no clean water, no bandages. They used scraps of cloth torn from burned clothing to dress wounds. They boiled river water for patients to drink. Yet even their greatest efforts could not stop the mysterious deaths spreading through the survivors. Entire families died together, their bodies carried to makeshift pyres. Shadows on the walls. In the ruins, investigators found something haunting. Where people had stood during the flash, their bodies had blocked the light, leaving dark silhouettes burned into stone walls and pavement. These became known as Hiroshima shadows, eerie reminders of lives vaporized in an instant. To the survivors, these shadows were not just images. They were the ghosts of neighbors, friends, and children, permanently etched into the city itself. The weight of silence. Food was scarce. Water was poisoned. Disease spread. And yet, amid the chaos, the Japanese government kept silent. Survivors had no understanding of what weapon had struck them. They only knew they had lived through something the world had never seen before. The name for their suffering had not yet been spoken: atomic bomb. News spreads, the world reacts. On August 6, 1945, a new word entered history. But for several hours, even as Hiroshima burned, the outside world had no idea what had happened. Tokyo learns the truth. At first, Japanese officials received confused reports. A single bomb had destroyed an entire city. Hiroshima had been wiped off the map. Tokyo's military command did not believe it. Some thought it was exaggeration, or perhaps a massive firebombing raid. It wasn't until reconnaissance planes flew over the ruins and photographed Hiroshima from the air that the scale of devastation became undeniable. One American weapon had achieved what had once taken hundreds of bombers. Washington speaks. Hours later, President Harry S. Truman made the announcement to the world. In a radio broadcast, his voice was calm but resolute. The Japanese have been repaid manyfold. What we have done is only a warning of things to come. For the first time, the phrase was spoken aloud. Atomic bomb. The United States had unleashed a weapon powered by the splitting of the atom, and it had changed warfare forever. Shock across the globe. The reaction was immediate. In Britain, some celebrated the end of the war seeming closer. In the Soviet Union, Joseph Stalin ordered scientists to accelerate their nuclear program. Scientists who had worked on the Manhattan Project, the creators of the bomb, were split. Some felt relief that the weapon had ended years of brutal war. Others were horrified at the destruction their creation had caused. A letter circulated among physicists read, "In the debate over victory, we have forgotten humanity." Voices from the ashes. In Japan, survivors began to tell their stories. Eyewitnesses described skies turning white, people vanishing in fire, rivers filled with bodies. But their testimonies were met with disbelief in the West. The devastation seemed beyond imagination. Some thought it was propaganda. Yet photographs soon confirmed the truth. Hiroshima was a flattened wasteland, where once a vibrant city had stood. The race to the end. As news spread, military leaders around the world realized the balance of power had shifted forever. If one bomb could annihilate an entire city, then the nation that held such weapons could dominate the world. And yet, even in that moment of awe and fear, another decision had already been made. While Hiroshima mourned, another bomb was being prepared. Its target, Nagasaki. Nagasaki, the second hell. Hiroshima had been erased. But the flames of war had not yet ended. Even as the dead were still being counted, another city, Nagasaki, waited unknowingly for its own day of fire. August 9th, 1945, morning clouds. The target was originally the city of Kokura. But when American bombers arrived, thick clouds blocked visibility. The plane circled, searching for a clear shot. Fuel was running low. The crew of the B-29 boxcar turned to the secondary target, Nagasaki. It was a port city, industrial, filled with shipyards and munitions factories. Yet it was also home to tens of thousands of ordinary civilians, families, children. The second flash. At 11:02 a.m., the bomb dropped. This one had a different name. Fat Man Larger, more powerful, fueled by plutonium. A blinding flash, brighter than the sun, lit the valley. The fireball reached temperatures hotter than the surface of the sun. An instant later, a pressure wave crushed everything in its path. Stone buildings crumbled like sand. Wooden homes erupted in flames. Within seconds, Nagasaki was gone. A city in ruins. The terrain of Nagasaki, hills and valleys, spared parts of the city from total annihilation. But the destruction was still unspeakable. Some 40,000 people were killed instantly. Tens of thousands more would die from burns, radiation, and injuries in the days that followed. Eyewitnesses recalled rivers boiling, people with skin hanging from their arms like ribbons, voices crying out for water, and then silence. Japan confronts the unthinkable. In Tokyo, the news was undeniable. 2 cities had been obliterated in 3 days. The emperor himself, Hirohito, now faced an impossible truth. Japan could not withstand this weapon. The military council debated fiercely, fight on or surrender. But every moment of hesitation meant more suffering, more loss. Finally, Hirohito broke centuries of tradition. The emperor spoke directly to his people. We must endure the unendurable. Japan would surrender. The silence after the fire. With Nagasaki's destruction, the age of nuclear warfare had begun. For the survivors, the Hibakusha, life would never be the same. Many suffered lifelong radiation sickness, cancers, and deep trauma. Their stories became living warnings of what happens when humanity wields godlike power without mercy. Surrender, the war ends. 2 cities had been turned to ash. Hiroshima, Nagasaki. The world stood on the edge of something new, something terrifying. and Japan stood on the edge of collapse. The imperial debate. In Tokyo, the Supreme War Council gathered. 6 men, split in two. 3 wanted surrender, 3 demanded resistance. Even after the atomic bombings, many generals believed Japan should fight on to defend the homeland with sticks and stones if necessary. But Emperor Hirohito knew the truth. The nation had no more cities left to sacrifice, no more lives to burn. On August 14th, Hirohito made a decision no Japanese emperor had ever made. He would speak directly to the people. His words were recorded on a phonograph disc, hidden from hardline generals who tried to seize it before it could be broadcast. The voice of the emperor. On August 15th, 1945, radios across Japan crackled with a sound no one had ever heard, the emperor's voice. He did not say the word surrender. Instead, he spoke of enduring the unendurable and laying down arms to preserve what was left of civilization. For many Japanese, the meaning was clear. The war was over. Tears filled the streets, some in grief, some in relief. But for millions across Asia and for Allied soldiers around the world, the broadcast meant one thing: victory. VJ Day. Celebrations erupted across the globe. In New York City, Times Square exploded with joy as sailors kissed strangers and confetti rained from the sky. In London, church bells rang as crowds filled Trafalgar Square. But in Japan, the mood was far darker. Cities were in ruins. Millions were homeless. Food was scarce. And an American occupation was about to begin. The occupation of Japan. General Douglas MacArthur arrived to oversee Japan's surrender and reconstruction. He would disband the Imperial Army, rewrite the nation's constitution, and oversee trials of war criminals. Yet the emperor was spared. Hirohito remained on the throne, a symbol of unity for a shattered nation. For many Japanese, it was the only familiar anchor in a world forever changed. The war's end and its shadow. The surrender ended World War II. But it also marked the beginning of something else: the nuclear age. The world had seen, in Hiroshima and Nagasaki, the true face of atomic war. The shadow it cast would stretch across generations, from the Cold War to our present day. For the survivors, the Hibakusha, the war never truly ended. Their scars, their illnesses, their memories became living warnings. They carried a simple message for the world: never again. Legacy of the bomb, humanity's warning. The bomb fell in 1945, but its echoes never stopped. Hiroshima and Nagasaki were not just destroyed cities, they became symbols. Symbols of science unchained, of humanity's darkest capability, and of a question that has haunted us ever since. What have we done? Hibakusha, the living witnesses. In the years after the war, survivors, the Hibakusha, lived with wounds both visible and invisible. Radiation sickness, cancers, and disfigurements marked their bodies. Stigma marked their lives. Some were shunned, unable to marry or find work. Yet they carried the heaviest burden: memory. Every August, they gathered in Hiroshima's Peace Memorial Park. They rang the bell. They folded paper cranes. They spoke for those who could no longer speak. Their voices became humanity's conscience. The nuclear age. Hiroshima and Nagasaki did not end the story of the atomic bomb. They began it. In the decades that followed, the United States and the Soviet Union built thousands of nuclear weapons, weapons far more powerful than the bombs that destroyed Japan. For the first time, humanity held in its hands the power to erase itself. The Cold War became a long shadow cast by that August day. Science, ethics, and regret. Some of the scientists who created the bomb were haunted by what they had unleashed. Robert Oppenheimer, often called the father of the atomic bomb, remembered the words of an ancient text: "Now I am become death, the destroyer of worlds." Could it have been stopped? Should the bomb have been used? These questions are still debated in classrooms, in parliaments, in living rooms across the world. Hiroshima today. Today, Hiroshima is not a ruin. It is a city reborn, a place of bustling life, of children, of industry. Yet at its heart stands the skeletal dome of one building left standing, the Hiroshima Peace Memorial. It is a reminder carved into the skyline. Never forget. Every year, lanterns float down the river, each carrying a name, a prayer, a wish. The city itself has become a monument, not just to the dead, but to resilience. Hiroshima and Nagasaki force us to face an uncomfortable truth. Knowledge can save us, or it can destroy us. The survivor's plea, "No more Hiroshimas," is not just a memory. It is a warning. The day the sky fell in 1945 was not the end of a war. It was the beginning of a choice humanity still faces, between destruction or peace. Hiroshima is more than a city. It is a warning written in fire. A warning that humanity's greatest achievements can also become its greatest dangers. The survivors, the Hibakusha, have carried their pain not for revenge, but for remembrance. They tell their stories so the world does not forget. Because the moment we forget is the moment it could happen again. If this story moved you, share it, so others remember what happened the day the sky fell. A comment below. Do you believe Hiroshima changed the world for peace, or did it open the door to even greater dangers? And subscribe for more documentaries that uncover the moments that shaped history.